Welcome to the Get Wealth Show, where we uncover the secrets to building real wealth through real estate from the people who have actually done it. Each episode gives you proven strategies, modern market insight, and actionable steps you can use today to build wealth through real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Michael Hoang.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Michael Hoang, and today I'm here with my friend, Russell. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, Michael. How are you?
Man, I'm doing wonderful, man. Russell and I have known each other for a number of years. We've both involved in self-directed IRA meetups here in Houston, Texas, and Russell is the owner of the Texas Real Estate Investment Center. It's kind of a hub of the community here for us in Houston. Pretty much anyone who's anybody has an office and puts on presentations and just builds a community up there at Russell's place. So I said, brother, we got to get you on. We got to hear your story. You've been around. You've been in the community for a very long time. So we're glad to have you on the show.
Excited to be here, and thanks for the plug of the Texas Real Estate Investment Center. You know, I got to pay for that other places. You gave it to me for free, so I like that. But, so you want to start? You want to start with the history, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gosh, been in Houston my whole life. So bought my first piece of property in 1976. And some people tease me and say, you sure it wasn't 1876? But no, I'm not that old. It's 1976. So, but it was a land deal out in Wimberley. Didn't know where Wimberley was. I was a teenager, and the economy was so bad that they would sell to anybody. So I bought that piece of land. And a few years later, at 21, bought my first house and got my real estate license at the same time. So I'm an active real estate broker, mainly in commercial. For all of you real estate people out there, it's a great industry to be in. And I enjoy it, keeps me busy. But the secret of our business is owning property. So, the house turned into a bunch of houses, and I was over off of Telephone Road. People think that maybe I got into the business because my parents were in the real estate business, or my parents were contractors or things like that. They had a flower shop on Telephone Road. So my motivation was to not be in the flower business on Telephone Road. So that's why I started buying real estate. And then I got lucky, and it's great to be lucky in real estate. I didn't want to be on Telephone Road, so I started buying property in another rundown part of Houston, Texas. And it was so cheap, I bought a bunch of it and got some owner financing and then got some permanent financing. And lo and behold, that rundown place turned out to be the Houston Heights. So for you local people, the Houston Heights, you know how it's grown exponentially in the last 30 years. So it's better to be lucky than smart. So I ended up in a place where, property values were low when I got in, and they boomed. And that's kind of how I got my nest egg to buy apartments and office buildings and warehouses and different things. So I've been investing for the last 45 plus years.
Wow. That is 45 years in the game. A lot of people that I meet are 4 to 5 years into the game, and you're 45 years in the game, brother.
I like to tell people that how does one guy stay in the same business for so long and be successful? And, I didn't have another option. And you get into something and your goal is to take care of your family. I didn't have a backup plan. So I've been through every downturn for the last, 45, 50 plus years. And you just put your head down and you work harder and you look for the next option. There's always a next option. There's always another neighborhood. There's always, people think that once you get in this business, you do one thing and that's all you do. Well, I started in residential and then got in commercial and then got into multifamily, got into land. I'm not a hard money lender, but I do a little bit of lending just with some excess cash. I got into buying ranches about 6 years ago. Never thought that I would, but it's what I call low hanging fruit. Whatever the market produces, whatever comes across my desk that makes sense, that I think I can make the spread. That's what I buy. So it's a great industry because you just never know what's going to happen the next day. No 2 days are alike. And let's say you do a deal and you make $100,000 on a Monday, Well, you can't wake up on Tuesday and say, gosh, I'm not going to do anything unless I can make 100 grand. That's not me. On Tuesday, if I can lease a property for 3 grand, that's what I'm going to do. If I can, buy a house for 50 grand, I think is going to be worth 100 grand in a few months, that's what I'm going to do. You can't chase all the big deals and say, this is where I was most successful. I'm not going to do anything but that. Might not come around again, or maybe it comes around in 3 or 4 years. So again, low hanging fruit, take what the market gives you.
Yeah, I love that. You said that you gotta take on whatever the market produces. And so in my short time, I've been in real estate for about 8 years now. In my short time, the market has changed as well. And ponds I used to fish in, zip codes I used to send direct mail, kind of dried up, and the economics of that area wasn't appealing to me. Even though there's still people that buy and sell deals and make money in those submarkets, it didn't work for me anymore. But yeah, there's always deals somewhere that make sense, and you're in. It could even be a different asset class because you're a commercial broker. You own an office building. You've done land. Even though I guess a majority of your career you did single family based on the conversations we've had over the years. I think it was mostly single family over the years. You got to kind of take what the market gives you. So, I usually ask people on the show about their first deal, but what's really interesting is those ranches. Do you want to dive into how people could do subdividing land or ranch deals?
Sure. I mean, I don't consider myself an expert on that. The way that you get into different asset classes, especially if you're a broker, my way of going about business is I experiment on myself. So the first apartment building that I brokered, I was the buyer. The first office building that I brokered, I was the buyer. The same with land and ranches. So I experiment on myself. I realize that it's, there's new things to know, but it's not rocket science. And if I don't mess up on myself and I do 2 or 3 deals, then I have the confidence to represent clients and do that also. So that's how I got into ranches. Bought one in Schulenburg. That was about 6 years ago. And the price per acre now has quadrupled. Did I know that was going to happen? No. Am I excited that happened? Yes. Does it make it harder to buy back in? Yes. So was able to do, once I get into a market, like people will say, hey, Russell, help me buy something in Montgomery County. Well, I don't know Montgomery County. I guess I could do that and get up to speed, but I'm too busy west of town. So, I've done deals in Weimar, Columbus, Schulenburg, Flatonia, different areas west of Houston that I feel comfortable with the prices. And then, there's a lot to know about subdividing. And I have people that I hire that I do the deal. I like the deal. I clean up the deal. And then I hire them to subdivide it for me. And more times than not, even though I'm a real estate broker, I don't sell my own country property because I'm hiring a guy that was born and raised in Weimar. He knows more about Weimar and land and cattle and all that than this city boy ever will. So one case, I bought 115 acres in Flatonia for under $5,000 an acre. And I was going to immediately put it back on the market. And I wondered if I could get 9. I thought, well, these people are going to know what I paid for it. They're going to say, we're not going to give him 9 for that. I mean, it's the same piece of property, a little bit cleaner. He pushed over some trees, burned some piles, things like that. I gave it to this broker out of Flatonia. And he said, I'm going to sell these 8 acres for $25,000 an acre. I'm going to sell these 20 acres for $15 an acre. And the cheap stuff is going to go for $12 an acre. So I never in my wildest dreams would I have attempted to do that, but that's his business. And he more than doubled my return on that property. So surround yourself with good people, hire local people. You're better off.
Yeah, there's something to be said about boots on the ground in a market they're in. I have the same thing I do the same thing you do, Russell, because I'm a licensed agent, and whenever I go to sell an asset, I want to talk to local people, the people that know that market. Same thing with property management. I can property manage. I can manage property for other people. I want to find whoever is like the property manager for this zip code or this area, and if they're managing properties that are $5, $7, $800,000, I don't want them to be my property manager on my $250,000 house. I want the guy who's got, 20, 30, 40, 50 houses that property manages that house. And if I've never done Section 8, but if I'm doing Section 8, I want the property manager who does Section 8 property management in this area. And so I like that when you were going to sell land, you could have brokered the deal yourself, but you weren't afraid to pay a proper commission to somebody that had local expertise, and you got well more than what you paid in the commission.
Oh yeah, and learned a lot, became a friend, and he's brought me other deals just because he knows I'm a buyer, and just I've got an ornery streak, and back in the day, I mean, I spent about 10 years in residential before I started, bought the first office and got into apartments, but I would get so frustrated when I would find an amazing deal and one of my regular buyers, for whatever reason, passed on it. And it's like, this is crazy. So I'd go try to find another buyer, and they might have passed on it because they were out of money or they had too many renovations going on. Who knows? But at the end of the day, I wanted to do the deal because it was a great deal and I wanted to make it the commission. So my ornery side, when I couldn't find a buyer, I just bought it myself. And, I'm real big when I speak to real estate groups around the state or Houston or HARTV or wherever I'm talking at the real estate center. I encourage all real estate people to be property owners also. Commissions are great. They pay the bills. Property ownership builds wealth. And that's what you're trying to accomplish. And I didn't get in the business to build wealth because I didn't know what that meant. But working hard, owning property, the appreciation in Houston, the end result was building wealth.
Yeah, most of the money that I've made over my career has been from owning real estate, letting it appreciate, letting the mortgage pay down on it. There's lots of ways to make money. You can be an agent, you can wholesale, you can flip. There's people that are transaction coordinators and own title companies or work at title companies. And I know several investors who own title companies themselves. And, but man, most of their net worth just comes from buying great assets at great prices, holding on to them, letting the asset appreciate and the mortgage pay down. Like it's so simple. And then, through my short career compared to yours in real estate, I'm just doing what I'm doing, letting passive income flow in, and then I turn around and a property's got over $100,000 of equity in it, and it's like, whoa, I had to work all year at a job that's paying me $100,000 or less, and while I'm doing that, I had several rent houses in the background, all appreciating up to $100,000 in equity each. So it's a big lever point, no matter what you're doing, for a full-time job.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's always been exponential. And I talk with so many people, especially agents, and they say, I've got this rent house and I'm going to keep it until I send a kid to college, and I'm going to sell it and pay for the college. I got this other one for my other kid. And what happens is if they stay on that same course, they don't need to sell those houses. Their income off of the rentals, their deals, whatever it is they're doing, pays for that college. So they're able to retain that. And other times I'll run into people and after a presentation, they'll come up to me and they'll act like they're bothering me, and I don't have time to speak with them. And I got time to speak to anybody. I mean, we're all the same, right? So they'll apologize for, especially one time I had a police officer come up to me. He wasn't in his uniform, but police officer's wife was a nurse. And they basically apologized to me for only owning 10 units and taking up my time. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, are you listening to yourself? You're a police officer. You've got a noble job. We're grateful for you. Your wife is a nurse. We're grateful for her. And y'all own 10 properties. I mean, 90% of the public doesn't own one property, and you own 11. The house you live in and the 10 rentals you've got. So, be proud of yourself. Look up in a couple of years, you might have 15 or 20. How do I know? But, sometimes people just have to be encouraged. And most of the time that I'm speaking, I call it the Russell Simmons Encouragement Tour. I'm just out, I'm not selling anything. I'm just trying to say, hey, real estate's been good to me, and it could be good to you, because I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not formally trained in real estate. I'm just kind of a junkyard dog that works in real estate, and buy low, sell high, and that's what we try to accomplish every day.
Yeah, so 87% of single-family homes that are non-owner occupant, so investment properties, 87% of investment properties or rental properties are owned by people who own 3 properties or less. And so for them to have 10 doors is amazing. That's
Sure.
absolutely
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
But also 90% of statistics are made up on the spot, so take that with a grain of salt.
I get frustrated with the news media. They will tell people that they'll never own a house because of this reason and that reason. Well, I think the reason that some people own 10 houses is because they get up and they hustle. And it takes a little bit of guts to do what we do. It takes a lot of networking. Sometimes you just have to get out there and ugly it in. And I've done that many times where, the last 10% of a deal is the hardest, getting it to market, whether it's going to be a rental or it's going to be a sale. And I spent many a long night or many a weekend, touching up the plumbing or touching up the electrical or whatever it is I had to do to get it on the market, because sometimes the contractors just, they just don't pull it all together, and you got to do it yourself. And I think that this is a business where, you really got to get your hands dirty. I don't think it's for somebody that, can't turn a wrench at all, or isn't willing to pick up something or clean up something or list it for themselves, or, go show their own property. I mean, it's what I call a full contact sport. That's I've been very successful in real estate because I'm hands on, and really not too good to do anything. If there's a downside to my business, is sometimes I get involved in the mundane as opposed to getting out and doing what not everybody can do, which is do a deal. So, but if I'm not going to do a deal anyway, I don't mind going on a property and cleaning things up and getting some things done, and feel like I accomplished something that day.
Oh man, I love that, Russell. I just love talking to you, man. I could talk to you all day long. You said the last 10% of the deal is typically the hardest, and I like how you said you're not afraid to go out there and do final touch-ups on a property before you put it on the market for sale. I've held back money from contractors and then not given them the final draw. Everyone does it a little differently. And then I go through and either take photos. I used to, once upon a time, take blue tape and pull little blue tape pieces and go stick blue tape on everything that need to be touched up. That way it's like universal. That way if the guy, maybe the foreman tells his guys what to do and they don't remember, they weren't listening, they go out there and they see all the little blue tape pieces. But in this modern age, it's easy for you to just take pictures of everything, or you can even just do a video walkthrough if your contractor has iPhone. Pro tip, if you have an Android phone, you're probably not going to be my contractor. I can't send really large video files to you, but I can just do a video walkthrough and be like, okay, is this right? This is correct. Can we move this over here? Can we do that? You hold back a little bit of that final draw from a contractor, and you can usually get them out there to go do it themselves. But if you're flipping like a lot of houses, I also know guys who will have like a handyman or like a punch list guy.
Sure.
Like is like a guy who's making whatever, 15, 20 bucks an hour because they're flipping so many houses. He's the guy that goes around at the final touches and turns the last few screws, touches up a little bit of paint, screws in light bulbs, replaces air filters, whatever you need done. If you're doing volume, you can have a guy whose job is just to do that. But yeah, if you're going to spend your whole life in real estate and you're going to bootstrap it, especially like Russell did in the beginning, you got to not be afraid to go out there and do those final touch-ups yourself.
Yeah.
Which I got a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, the handyman are so important because, one hand is a screwdriver, one hand is a paintbrush. You just have to be able to kind of multitask as you walk through. And it's kind of a gift to be able to do that. Not everybody can do it. I won't say that I'm great at it, but, once you've done a lot of the work that yourself, then you realize that there's no such thing as perfect. So you also want things to be good, but you want to give your contractors a little bit of grace. I mean, there's no perfect sheetrock job. There's no perfect this or that. Electrical and plumbing, you'd hope those are pretty close to, you flip the switch and the light bulb comes on, or you flush the commode and the water goes down. But, as far as the touch up and the paint and the things like that, once you've done it yourself, you kind of understand that there's a certain level that you're paying for, and move on to the next one.
Yeah, and we've had to do minor stuff ourselves over the years. I have a video my wife loves to reference as she was working she was a registered nurse at the time, working 13, 14-hour shifts at a local hospital here in Houston. And we went to a property after she got off work. So she's in her scrubs, squatting down with a caulking gun, caulking around a bathtub, and using her finger to, put the caulk in there. And, we took a video of that, and I'm like, I'm going to show this one day. This is before I had my contractors and my systems worked out. But man, especially when you're starting out, man, you cannot be afraid to do those little things. And I put out bandit signs on my own. I've door knocked all by myself. I've done driving for dollars. When you're starting out, like I like to tell people that there's like, I don't know, there's like this axis, or I call it a seesaw. I don't know of a fancy scientific word for it, but you have it like a seesaw. And on one side of this axis or seesaw, you've got lots of money, very little time. On the other side, you got lots of time, very little money. And depending on where you are in your real estate journey, that system or process that you're going to use in your business is going to look a little different. So if you got all the time in the world, very little money, you need to get very familiar with a hammer. And then there's people that come into this business with a lot of money, or that are seasoned investors, have a lot of money built up, and they focus on like revenue in first position. So they focus on their, like if your job all day long is to get on the phone and negotiate deals, you're probably worth $1,000 an hour. And so they're never going to go to a property and do a $15, $20 an hour job. They're going to hire someone to do that. The same way these high earning people will never go cut their own grass unless they just get a real good sense of pride, or they just like it for the exercise. So depending on where you guys are in your journey, what your systems are going to look like are going to be a little bit different for everybody else.
Oh, yeah. Earlier you were talking about finding the next neighborhood. I call that the emerging markets. So just to give people that are on your podcast and know Houston very well, I got into the Heights and then got priced out of the Heights. So the next neighborhood that was emerging, was kind of struggling, was Oak Forest. Well, we know what Oak Forest is doing, and then Garden Oaks, and then Spring Branch. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I looked back and saw that the East End, or Edo, was booming. And so we went over there and picked up 6 or 7 deals because Edo looked like the Heights 30 years ago. So we're always looking for the next neighborhood. People always ask me where the next neighborhood is, and I don't really know. This town is so big. I mean, I'm sure there's people that have been working in the Woodlands or Spring or places like that forever, and they're going further north. They're going to Willis, or they're going to, far off Montgomery County. I don't know those markets, but for me, I'm going, everything I do pretty much now is west, more in the country properties. But you just got to find your niche where you can do 2 or 3 deals and then find another market.
Yeah, I love that. So did you ever do any deals in Medical Center South?
Are you ready to get started on your real estate investing journey? Well, we put together free resources to help you get started. Check the link in the description.
I did not. No.
So that serves the point that you're trying to make, is that there's always an emerging market somewhere, and you don't have to do all the deals to make a good living, because you never did any deals in the Medical Center or Medical Center South. And the last, I don't know, 5, 7, 8 years, that place has been on fire. I know people who are building duplexes and triplexes there. I know people who flip land there, or holding rentals there, and they're appreciating like crazy because all these doctors want to buy a house there. And you didn't even touch that market, because there's just so much opportunity out there that you didn't even have to go. And through that run up in that area, you didn't even get involved there because you were too busy doing deals in other areas,
Yeah. Now, I did a lot of brokerage in those markets, but I never owned anything there. You're always looking to do 3 or 4 deals and pick something up, but those were just one of the markets that I didn't. And my average property in residential would have been kind of a 150, 200 max on a purchase. I purchased a lot less than that for sure. Commercial, it's usually 750 to 3 million or something like that. I don't deal in the huge numbers like some people do. Like, I won't buy a $750,000 in the Medical Center or Westview or something like that, put $500,000 in it to sell it for 2. That's 3 or 4 deals for me. I like to put my eggs in several baskets as opposed to one.
Yeah, I love that. It helps you kind of stay diversified there. Yeah, I've never done any commercial real estate yet. I've passively invested in multifamily, but I've never done any commercial deals yet. However, you know what? Let's talk about that because commercial real estate seems to be a little bit of a slump right now. And I know several people, all these meetups I go to, it seems like everyone's raising money to buy an office building or a strip center, something commercial. And it seems like it's popped up in the last few years. Is that just a Houston thing? Is that a nationwide thing? What are you seeing in that?
Most all I know is Houston. I don't know, too much about what's happening outside of Texas, but I mean, commercial, especially for an owner occupant, is a great deal. I've never been an owner occupant. I mean, the Texas Real Estate Investment Center here is 30,000 square feet. I'm sitting in 200 square feet right now, so that's all I need. The other buildings that I've owned, there's been three or four. Only one of them I occupied. But the key for me was to find like-minded people that had, the real estate company or the small law firm or the small insurance company, and they were my tenants, and they paid the mortgage over a period of 20 years, and that was it. It's just finding the right deal, getting the right price, making it what I call functional but not fancy. Like it's clean, the doors lock, the commodes flush, the lights come on, and the air conditioning comes on, and people can operate there. But it was never fancy. But I collected a lot of rent and officed for free. And at the end of the term, especially the one I had in the Heights on 11th Street, bought it for 160, officed there for 20 years. Tenants paid it off multiple times over, and sold the dirt for 800 grand. That wasn't a plan. I mean, I've never had a plan. I've never had a dream. I just react. And going back to when you were talking about people with money, luckily I never had money, because when you have access to a lot of money, if it had been me, I would have bought a bunch of things that probably would have been bad deals. So in the 4 or 5 weeks up trying to raise money or find money or sell something of mine to buy something, I determined it wasn't a great deal for me, so I didn't do the deal. Had I had that $500,000 in the bank and bought it right away, it might have been a mistake. So kind of working on a shoestring has been beneficial to me. You sell something for 400 grand, all of a sudden 400 grand's back in the bank and you're rich for a day. Well, what does a real estate investor do? They go out and buy something for 500 so they can sell it for 750. And it's a game. And I've been told that the game ends and you become really successful at 66 years old. Unfortunately, I'm just 65, so I don't know. I'm not there yet, right? It's just, still chasing the dream.
I love it, man. It's just in your blood. There's some people I meet that you can tell they're in real estate for they're going to be here today, gone tomorrow. It's like a market gets hot, people pop up and they're talking about all the money they're going to make. And then there's other people where it's like real estate's just in their blood. All they know is finding a deal. They know how to find value. They know how to arbitrage value, create value. And it's just in their blood. They just want to go find a deal. And I can tell you're just one of those people that you're just a deal junkie and just real estate's just in your blood. Even though you weren't born into a real estate family, it's just a part of you now.
Yeah, I'm a conservative deal junkie. I think a lot of people look at people that buy distressed properties or vacant properties or things like that, and they think that they're really out over their skis. But to me, there is, purchasing at the right price can never go away. I mean, buy low, sell high is rule number one. People say location is rule number one. That might be number two, but you just can't pay too much for a piece of property. I always buy for value. And sometimes, like the first apartment complex that I bought, I was number 10 in line. And how did I know that? Because the sellers told me I was an idiot and I wasn't paying enough money, and I was number 10, and there was no way I was going to buy it from them until, number one, number two, number three, all that fell out because they didn't have money, or they didn't have experience, or they didn't have a banking relationship, or they didn't have any skills. And then there I was, and I bought it for my price, and those people became, supporters of mine for a long time. So sometimes you got to stick to your guns. And I tell young investors all the time, I've got a young investor agent in my office right now, and I'll tell him, hey, the seller needs to sell this more than you need to buy it. And when it gets to a point where you're able to buy at the right price, then that's when you pull the trigger. But it's a deal that's going to stand the test of time. Case in point, he bought a 16-unit apartment complex that they said they had. Well, I don't doubt them, but they said they had it contracted at $1.6 million, and now that fell through, and they were at $1.3 million, and they were going to sell it for a penny under $1.3 million. And a few months later, he bought it for $1.05 million. So, you just gotta stick to your guns and wait until the time is right. And you lose a lot of deals, but you lost it, so maybe it wasn't your deal. That's the way I look at it. Don't have to have everything.
Yeah, I have never been concerned about other people's price, what other people are willing to pay, and sometimes even what people are asking for a house or a piece of land. I'm not too concerned about that. I'm just concerned, are they motivated to sell? And then if they want an offer from me, I'll crunch the numbers and I'll give them an offer that works for me. And you got to go through a lot of no's to get a yes. And I learned to get excited about no's, because every no got me closer to a yes. At one point, it was just like 13 or 14 no's took me to get a yes at one point when I was doing a lot of volume. Every time I'd hear no, I'm like, yes, just 3 more no's before statistically I get a yes,
And deals come in threes. So you get a bunch of no's, but you got to be prepared when those 3 great deals come at the same time, because you've been negotiating over a period of time. You've got to be prepared to take them all down, but you also have to be prepared to get them all back on the market quickly. I mean, the people that I've seen come and go are the ones that bought too much inventory, let it sit too long. And if you let it sit too long, it's just not sustainable. Not for me. It's got to be leased, or it's got to be on the market. It's just too expensive to have stuff sitting around.
Yes, what Russell's
especially if you got a mortgage.
Yes, what Russell's talking about is carry costs. So everything has taxes, insurance, probably a mortgage, or private investors that you have to pay on. And so the more vacant houses or vacant commercial buildings you have, the higher your carry cost is. And I even know people that, I was talking to somebody and they said in like November, December, they bought like 10 or 11 houses because they made offers on all these properties that made sense to them. And too many people said yes. And so they said, all right, we'll buy them all and we'll get to them when we get to them. And I think we're in the month of May now. And he said, I've still got a couple properties I haven't touched yet out of those 10 or 11 that I bought. So depending on your financial situation, you got to watch your carry costs, because that can drown you. I've had properties sit vacant for months, and it is not fun. It is not a good time.
Well, that's where you call a buddy. I mean, the thing that we've got today that we didn't have back when I got in the business, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have meetups, we didn't have places where people collaborated like they do now. So you just call a friend and say, hey, Michael, I've got this deal. I'm in at 100. You can be in at 130. It's still a great deal. So you make the spread. Michael gets the deal, and everybody's happy. And so, as opposed to hanging on to it for another 6 months and then having to sell that $100,000 piece of property for 75 because you're just cash broke. So you need to you need to offload some stuff when it makes sense. Don't let your ego get in the way, especially if you're dealing with friends, because friends will pay you a fair price for it. And that's why we have a big network. If we need to offload something, there's somebody that wants it.
Yeah, I love that idea that if you can't get to it, I always tell people, the newer people that I talk to, their first, you can tell if they're on their first couple of deals, because they got to get the maximum amount of money for every single deal. No, I won't settle for anything less than whatever, $200,000 for this property. But I always tell people, especially newer people, a fast nickel is better than a slow dime.
Most definitely. Yep. Agree completely.
Well, I'd love to talk to you all day, Russell, man, but we gotta get you out of here. We're gonna move to the last segment of the show here. So when I speak to people, I've spoke to a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, real estate investors, and I've kind of noticed a pattern that people are on a course in life, and their life course is kind of like a ship in the sea. It's big, it's heavy, it moves very slow, and to turn it takes quite some time to turn. So when I asked them what changed their course the most, that turned them from having a full-time job to becoming a real estate investor or an entrepreneur, it's almost always a book. And so I like to ask every guest on every show, what book got you into real estate?
Well, nothing got me into real estate as far as a book, but everybody read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, thought it was a great book. Of course, Mitch Stevens, his book, My Life in a Thousand Houses. I mean, it's all, we all want to get pumped up. Whenever I'm doing a presentation, I try to pump up the crowd. So when I go to a presentation that somebody else is doing, I want to get pumped up too. So I would say both of those books are good. I read a ton, but unfortunately I read a lot of fiction, and that's kind of my escape. So I should read more about real estate, but I guess I get enough real estate during the day without reading about it. So if you've got a good book to recommend to me, let me know. I'll probably maybe I'll read one of Brant Phillips' books. How's that?
That's awesome. Yeah, after 45 years in the game, you get a pass. You don't have to read real estate books anymore. All right. For everybody else just getting started, read a real estate book. My Life in a Thousand Houses. I wrote that down. I've never heard that one before. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Almost everybody says that one when they come on the show. Okay, and so we're big believers in the Go Giver here. And I know you haven't read The Go Giver because you don't read a lot of nonfiction books. But I like to explain to everybody, when you were born, your parents had to give to you long before you were capable of giving back to them. And when you work a traditional job, you work 2 weeks or more before you get your paycheck. And so if somebody comes into this game and thinks they're going to hold firewood and look at the fireplace and say, give me warmth first, and then I'll give you this wood, you're going to have a very cold winter. So I ask every guest on every episode, what can you give the audience today?
Well, I'll talk to just about anybody. They know that. I'm at the Texas Real Estate Investment Center every day. I do presentations there. I'm in the building. People knock on my door. I answer it and I talk with them. So for anybody that wants to reach out to me, I'll give you my email address. Be happy to discuss a deal. If it's a deal that you want to go forward with, and me being a real estate broker and you need to be represented, we can do that too. But there doesn't have to be anything financial. I like talking about real estate. I like helping younger people. I like hearing what they're doing because, I might have quit doing something 20 years ago because it wasn't working anymore. And if I'm visiting with a young person and they're doing the same thing, well, that tells me it's working again. So maybe I need to revisit that. But more than happy to give out my email address for people to reach out to me. It's Russell, RUSSELL, at TAPHOU.com. That's Texas Area Properties Houston. And or you can go to the website, the Texas Real Estate Investment Center. That's TREIC.com, and I can respond there. But no, come hang out at the building. If you're a real estate agent, we have free CE classes throughout the year. We have people that come talk about insurance, which if you're in real estate, you need to know about insurance. We have people that come talk about hard money or traditional money. You need both of those. There's just a wealth of free information here. And so I give that to the group, and I just always look forward to celebrating other people's success with them.
Yeah, that's one of the pillars of new real estate investors. They ask me what I should be doing. One of the pillars is live in-person networking events. There's great resources online, but you got to go hang out in person. It's like every week or sometimes twice a week, it seems, I get notifications from events happening at the Texas Real Estate Investment Center. So there's always something going on. There's a great community. It is a big building with a lot of space. And pretty much everybody in town who has some kind of background in real estate has some kind of event there at the Texas Real Estate Investment Center. So my next question is always ask, what can you give everybody? But you already answered that. I'm sorry, but I messed it up. I got it backwards. What can everybody give you now?
Come tell me your success. I mean, I enjoy other people's success. I mean, real estate's been good to me. It's been good to my family. being able to encourage them. Of course, when I'm having a conversation with somebody that might be, 30, 40 years younger than me, they think that they're learning from me, but what they don't realize is I'm learning from them. I'm learning what's a 30-year-old thinking, what's hot in the market. What do I need to do to be, to continue to be viable? So, they can just come see me, just share. Let's have a conversation. That's what they can do for me, because, it keeps me young. It keeps me relatively young and relatively, out in the market. But, I just enjoy people. I mean, people, what's the number one thing about real estate? How are you successful in real estate? It's the people. If you can't work with people, if you can't give as much as you receive, if you can't do business in a way that is honest, like we have a conference room here. We've got 3 conference rooms in the building, but one of them is called the Integrity Conference Room, and that's not lost on anybody. Integrity is a huge word in real estate. That's how I've had clients for all of these years. They know no matter what, I'm going to do the best job that I can. And when I mess up, I'm going to tell them I messed up, and then we're going to find a solution. So yeah, just, come see me. That's how they can give back to me. Tell me their story. Encourage me.
Love that, Russell. And so the last question I always ask is, where can people find you? You mentioned it before, but can you throw it out there again?
Sure. Well, the building is 5295 Hollister. We're just a block off of 290.
And that's Houston, Texas?
Houston, Texas, right? And then my email address is Russell, RUSSELL, @TAPHOU.com, which stands for the Texas Area Properties, Houston. And then also the Texas Real Estate Investment Center website is TREIC.com. And I'm around. You might see me in Houston and come up and tell me that you saw the podcast and that I bored you to death and how I could do a better job. And I'll work on that.
Russell, whether I talk to you over the phone, on a podcast, or in person, it's always informative. It's always a fun time, brother. I've never had a dull time with you.
Hey, same thing, Michael. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. This is Michael Hoang signing off.
Each week on the Get Wealth Show, you hear real conversations with investors, entrepreneurs, and operators who are building real wealth in the real world. If you're ready to start building wealth through real estate, click the link in the description for free resources and tools to help you get started. And if you want more practical, real-world conversations, follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. We'll see you next time on the Get Wealth Show.